The format of tonight's meeting is that we have a guest speaker share their experience, strength and hope on how Alcoholics Anonymous program of recovery is working in their lives for 15 to 20 minutes. Tonight we have asked Andrew to share.
Yeah, good day everyone, I'm Andrew and I'm an alcoholic.
Hey Andrew!
And gratefully sober today. And I might sit down, I reckon, 15 minutes. Bit of a power share. It's been a while since I've delivered a power share actually. And yeah, basically I haven't really thought about too much about what I'm going to say, which is until I went for a run after, just before I came, and I thought I better think of something, and because I don't really tell my story too often these days, and I don't think about it anywhere near as much as I used to. Like in the first few years of my recovery, I went to lots and lots of meetings. I went to meetings, every day, and on the weekends probably 5 or 6, and I needed to do that for 2 to 3 years to get, as they say in the big book, get a bedrock of sobriety and a grounding, a leveling, and a bit more confidence in myself, I suppose, really. And yeah, but these days it's completely different for me, and I'll touch on, I don't know a lot of people in this room, so I'll touch on my story a bit, and then I'll go into my version of recovery. And before I go any further, I really like to say that this is, my opinion and my experience with Alcoholics Anonymous, and I really I really like those people that say that before they share, they like to reiterate the fact that it's their opinion, and because like everyone in this room's got a different version of AA and what they've gone through. Basically, I started drinking, at a pretty young age, and I thought it was, it was the best thing that had ever happened to me, really. And as soon as booze hit my lips, that was the end of me, and to doing anything else besides drinking, really. And all my actions just geared towards drinking, as much as I possibly could. And by the time I was 22, 23, I was in a lot of trouble. I'd been to psychologists and social workers and all those things, and spiritual healers and tarot readings and just whatever I could find to try, because I couldn't work out what was wrong with me. And in hindsight, it was plain as day, and I suppose you hear a lot that the alcoholic's the last to know, it's the last to realise. Everyone else can see it, but I just couldn't see it, really. And I came to AA thinking that I didn't really have a problem with alcohol, and I just knew that my life was really shit, and I was hating it. I was just hating being alive, really. And I had some people suggest to me that a person suggest me that I should come. I spent a fair while just drinking and taking party drugs and all that stuff, and just trying to run away, and for a fair while, for a little while it worked, and I loved going out, and I loved chasing girls and being in dirty, dingy nightclubs. That was where I really wanted to be, and I hated having to leave at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, and just wanted to get back in there. It was just, and looking back, it was just a horrible, horrible existence. And yeah, I suppose I came into recovery, not wanting to, not that I didn't want to get sober, I just didn't really think that I drank very much, and I didn't really think that, that was my problem. I thought that the fact that I had no money and that I was in, thousands of dollars of debt, and that, all the things, like I couldn't get it together. I never had a girlfriend. I never had, that's not true. I did have friends when I was younger, but when I got to my early 20s, all those friends disappeared. They didn't really want me around unless they wanted to get smashed, and then I was invited, because I was the guy that just got drunk, and I had a few different groups of friends, and I would just drink with the ones that were on it that night, or the ones that I didn't owe money to, and then I would because I'd borrow money off those people, and then I'd avoid that group of friends and hang out with another group, and all that kind of, you know, all that kind of just sick thinking that comes with alcoholism. You know, I suppose the last few years, and it's pretty sad really when you think about it. When you think about it, a 21, 22-year-old bloke, like I couldn't walk down the street. You know, I was just scared. I remember I'd drive to work and I would be terrified about what was going to happen in the day, and that I'd done something wrong the day before. Like, I hadn't done anything wrong, and there was probably, you know, 95% of the time there was never a problem, but I just had this horrible feeling that there was something really wrong. And you know, I couldn't see for myself that drinking alcohol was doing that to me, and taking drugs. I couldn't see that, and I really needed someone else to point that out to me, and it took a long time that was, you know, an issue for me. So basically I came into AA at 24, and still feel really lucky. I met a bloke at the first meeting that I went to. You know, he was a couple of years older than me, and he was really fit, and he was sober, and he was happy, more to the point. You know, he seemed to be okay with himself and comfortable in his own skin, and I hadn't felt that for a long time. You know, I hadn't felt okay with myself just to be able to sit down and watch TV. I couldn't do it. You know, I was always thinking, and I remember I was always looking at what I can do to make, you know, this is going to fix me, and this is going to fix me. And I remember I was applying for uni maybe a year or two before I got sober, and it was for a Cert 4 at a TAFE. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's not the hardest thing to get into, to do a Cert 4, you know, and I couldn't even fill out the form. I had to sit there with my sister, and she would like be explaining the questions to me. You know, I couldn't actually take in the sentences, and that's what it did to me. You know, I just couldn't focus, and I couldn't, you know, my mind would just race and think about other shit all the time. And yeah, and so going from that, you know, it took a long time for me to sorry, I lost my train of thought there, but it took a long time for me to come into AA to settle down. And you know, like I said earlier, I went to a lot of meetings, and AA became my life, you know. And I heard in meetings that I needed to, you know, put sobriety first. And you know, like I said, I met this bloke that was comfortable with himself, and I saw in other people that they were okay. You know, they might not have been necessarily going through like a good time in their life, but they were comfortable with themselves, and they were okay without alcohol. And you know, I really wanted that. I really, really wanted that. So I made a decision after a couple of meetings that I would give it a crack and see what it's all about, and see if it'll work for me. You know, like I said, I didn't really think that alcohol was a problem, and it wasn't until a few months in that I really identified with what everyone was talking about, and the honesty in AA is just unbelievable. You know, I'd never heard anything like that before, and I'd never heard anything like it. And I wanted to, and I saw these people that were comfortable, and I really wanted to be comfortable. So I made this commitment, and I started going to meetings on a regular basis. But you know, at first I didn't really want to go all the time. You know, and I wanted to show up 10 minutes late, and I did things like I'd meet a person, and we would just go to hang out, like someone getting sober, another, you know, a mate or whatever, and we would just start going to meetings together. And I would not want to go to the meeting, you know. I just wanted to like hang out with that person, and we could bitch about everyone else, and we could, do you know what I mean, and just not really get sober, I suppose. But you know, lucky for me, the people that I was hanging out with, and you know, they actually had a bit of sobriety, and looking back, they were, you know, 12th stepping me and getting me to go to meetings, you know. So then I would be at these meetings, and I'd, you know, taking this shit in, and for a lot of it was just time away from alcohol and letting my brain process what was happening, you know. I looked into further research. I don't know if other people, you know, it's probably quite common, like looking on the net and stuff like that, reading about alcoholism and reading about the the effects, you know. And I read this article in Time magazine, a great article, and it was about how it takes 2 years for your brain to fully, you know, recover from the physical effects of alcoholism, and you know, and that's dependent on how much you've drank for what time period, blah blah blah. You know, and that gave me a lot of comfort, because after 9 months I was like, fuck, I'm still not quite thinking right, and it's just why, you know, why, and you know, stuff like that. And speaking to older sober members that had been through it, and they're saying to me, you know, it's going to be okay, mate, it's going to be okay, just hang in there and you'll get through it. And yeah, I suppose, you know, those things were really important, and I had to go and go out for coffee with people and go out for dinner with people and learn how to become a part of society. I didn't, you know, like I said, I was just terrified walking down the street, so my social life wasn't the best when I came in, you know, and I just didn't know how to talk to people. I found it difficult to focus, like I said, and I would, you know, be having conversations with people, and it would be a real struggle for me just to take in what they were saying for a fair while. And you know, and that's okay. You know, I was told that's okay. I'd speak to my sponsor, and like, that's okay, it's going to be okay. You know, you're putting in the right action, and you're on the right track, and all those little things. You know, today I'm a big advocate for doing all the little things in recovery. At first, I thought that I had to be secretary of one group and treasurer of another group, and have all these huge things, and like, well, in my perception, what was important to fulfil my, you know, to tick off all the boxes of my sobriety, and you know, that's really changed for me. I suppose a big part of my recovery is you know, away from the steps and away from working with other alcoholics. You know, that's obviously, for me, that's the most important thing. But perception is really important, because I found that over my time in recovery and, you know, drinking, my perception has changed, and it changes on a daily basis. And what I've learned is that that's okay. You know, if I have a thought, or you know, I feel a certain way about something, that it's okay for that to change, and there's nothing wrong with it. You know, I really thought that if I thought this and I you know, said that opinion to people, then that was set in stone, and then I had to make that my truth, and then I could never, you know, stray from that, or I was really fixed, I suppose, in my opinions, and my life was really closed and sheltered, and I thought I had to do things a certain way. You know, I had to be a certain person and carry myself a certain way. And what I've learned in recovery is that, you know, life is an evolution, and well, that's how I feel about it anyway, and that it's constantly changing. Yeah, it's an amazing thing being sober, you know. It's an amazing thing that I can actually look at myself and, you know, have self-appraisal now. That's what the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous gives me, you know, because I never had that before. You know, I would react and I would drink, and now I still react, but I have the ability, or, you know, I get in, if I do react, and I don't react as much as I used to, but if I do react, I have the ability to sit down and, you know, speak to someone about it and write it down on a piece of paper and look at it. And I never had that, you know. I never had any kind of clarity about where I was, you know, who I am as a person, and, you know, how my actions can affect other people. I just couldn't see that before. I couldn't see that, you know, I just thought I was a really insignificant, bad person, and that was my perception at the time. And I couldn't see how having that perception, it still affects other people, you know, negatively, and in ways that, you know, you still don't know how, like, I'll never know my impact on other people, you know, completely, and you know, I know today that I you know, that I carry myself differently, that that I have this self-appraisal that I didn't have, and I've kind of went on a little bit of a tangent there, so I might just pull in the reins a bit. Basically today, you know, 90 to 95% of the time, I'm comfortable with who I am as a person, and I have the tools in my life that I can actually, you know, try and get a gauge of how I act in society, and that, you know, more importantly, that I actually want to be a part of society today, and I want to do the best that I can, you know, and that I can. There's a difference between, you know, wanting to do the best that I can and being the best person, you know, having to be the best at everything, I suppose. That the pride and ego and all that stuff that, you know, it's just, it's a humanly trait. But as an alcoholic, I find that I really like to magnify and, you know, intensify those things, and really, you know, I'm an extremist, I suppose, and AA has allowed me to really kind of get a little bit of balance. You know, I don't have to do things at like 150%. You know, and it's a real gift to be sober, and it's a real gift to be able to watch other people get sober today. I feel really lucky that I've got this thing, and I can't, you know, I can't put my finger on why I'm sober. I don't really know why I'm in this room tonight and there's 10 dudes, you know, out there drinking, but I'm done with questioning why. You know, I learned a little while ago that was, you know, there's no point in thinking about that anymore. You know, there's no point in examining why. It's just the way it is for me, and I don't want to go back out there. You know, if I come here today and share my story and stick out my hand to a newcomer and say, "Good on you, mate, you're doing a good job," then, you know, I've got a much better chance of being sober. So I'm just going to leave it there. Thanks a lot.